Intelligence Committee, Mike Rogers, is joining us right now. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for coming in. So did the U.S. intelligence community screw it up, miscalculate what Putin's intentions in Ukraine, Crimea specifically were?
I don't think they screwed it up. It's under review now. There were just two different analytical products by two different agencies. One said there was certainly the possibility that they could see more aggressive, meaning troop movement into the Crimean Peninsula. One saying they just didn't think it was going to happen. But all the indicators were there, the intelligence was there. But remember, it's always a lot of science and a little bit of art in the analytical product. You have to take not the complete puzzle and try to put it together. So I've ordered a review just to see why the differences, were there collection gaps, meaning were there pieces of information the intelligence community from a collection posture missed or didn't get, and how we might be able to fill those in, and why they came to those two different conclusions. So we're going to go through that review. I wouldn't say it was a failure or they got it wrong. Again, lots of indicators there. I think even on Friday I came out and said that it was clear that the Russians were in the Crimean Peninsula. It was all based on intelligence product that I had seen. So I think they were getting a lot of the pieces right. No way to really tell what Putin's intentions were right up to the last minute.
Because there are a lot of reports now out there that the CIA basically got it right. The DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, misread the situation. Are those the two agencies you're talking about?
I don't want to talk about the two agencies specifically. Again, we're going through the review. There are 16 agencies. Two agencies produce the analytical product, and we're just trying to get through it and make sure we understand all the information we need so that I can make a good conclusion. Again, not to try to actually beat them up. This is a pretty tough call at the end of the day because you're talking about the leadership intent. And if you remember, Wolf, trying to determine leadership intent got America in trouble here not that long ago in the world stage. So they're getting tugged and pulled in a lot of different directions. So that's why I want to do the review and make sure that we've got the right resources at the right place, and that they feel free to make the right calls in their analytical product.
There was a really tough exchange the other day. John McCain, the Republican senator from Arizona, was grilling Chuck Hagel, the defense secretary, suggesting that there were some intelligence blunders. And I must point out, last night, CIA Director John Brennan issued a very strong statement saying this. I'll put it up on the screen, Congressman. He said, this is Brennan of the CIA, I am very confident that the appropriate authorities reviewing this matter will determine where wrongdoing, if any, occurred in either the executive branch or the legislative branch. Until then, I would encourage others to refrain from outbursts that do a disservice to the important relationship that needs to be maintained between intelligence officials and congressional overseers. You want to do this review right now to make sure lessons are learned, that if there were some miscalculations, some blunders, they're not repeated down the road. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And we may find that there just wasn't. And again, remember, in real time we were receiving information and the indicators were there. And so, you know, I've been doing this long enough, I can kind of come to my own conclusions. Always better to talk to the analysts who have more experience drilled down in one particular region. I didn't see any glowing errors. I did see two different analytical conclusions. And so if you're just taking the analytical conclusion, somebody might be a little honked off, if you will. But it wasn't completely inaccurate. You have to take the whole product. And you have to take all of the information collected. A lot of the indicators were collected. They came just to a different conclusion. And as I said, a lot of science, a little bit of art in the analytical part, and based on you know, lots of experience and lots of education in these areas. So the review is, maybe we didn't properly resource it, maybe we did, and it just came down to the fact that they had a disagreement on the art portion of the science that we had and all those collection points, if that makes sense.
Congressman, one final question on Vladimir Putin, the Russian leader. There's stories out there that Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, reportedly said he was living in another world in a conversation she had with the President of the United States. The former Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, on an interview here on CNN's New Day this week, she said that Putin may be, quote, delusional. Now, you're privy to all the latest intelligence, the estimates on Putin. Is he delusional? Is he living in another world? Or is he savvy, shrewd, and smart?
I think he's savvy, shrewd, and smart. You have to remember, this is not an isolated incident. He's been successful in his invasion, if you will, of South Ossetia in the country of Georgia. In the last 6 months or so, he has expanded those borders in South Ossetia further into Georgia, he says, for troop protection. That was successful. No real ramifications from the 2007 cyber attack that was just brutal across Estonia. He has been successful in making us back down on missile defense. We took forward-based missiles out of Poland and the Czech Republic that caused real problems with our allies, by the way. He did well on the nuclear negotiations, tactical nukes kind of taken off the table, big win for the Russians. I think he sees this as a long-term game, and he is experiencing long-term successes. If anyone thinks he woke up in the morning and decided to do something in the in the Crimean Peninsula, they are fooling themselves. He had the legislature teed up. They've already said that if any portion of the Ukraine petitions to be part of Russia, they will welcome them. The legislature had already said that Russian troops could go into the Ukraine. All of that was preset. And going into the Olympics, many people, including me, were saying, you know, watch what happens after the Olympics. He's going to get much more engaged in the Ukraine. He had telegraphed that pretty significantly. And I think if people are fooling themselves, I mean, NATO's been cutting their defense budgets. Nation states are reducing their contribution rates, have over the last decade. If anyone is living in the wrong world right now, I think it's them. We need to re-engage in the notion that the reason NATO is there is to stop, at that time, the Soviet march into the West. And I would argue, listen, Putin still has some of the same designs. He'll do it in a very different way, but same designs. So we better prepare ourselves for that.
All right, Mr. Chairman, as usual, thanks very much for your analysis.
Hey, thanks, Wolf, and congratulations on the 42 shows that you're doing across the day.
Thank you very much. Mike Rogers is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Happy he's watching CNN, but what he said was very significant about Vladimir Putin, the Russian president. He is not delusional. He's not living in another world. He is savvy, shrewd, and smart. And if anyone's living in another world, he says it's some of those NATO allies who are cutting back on their